What's up, America? I'm still recovering from this podcast because we did a, how do you say it? We hit Joe Rogan records recording. We went on and on and on. And then we had a Bang energy drink, not a sponsor, could be, not a sponsor. We had a Bang energy drink and we just kept going. So this is just a little intro to let you know we're going to cut this episode that's coming out now into 2 episodes because it was a chunk episode. But anyway, it's the Jeff Vance Show. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. It's going to be a good time. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up, so stay tuned to all the channels you can find me on. Subscribe, like, those subscribes really matter. If we get to 100, we can officially own the Jeff Vance Show, and we'd become that much cooler because we, would own the Jeff Vance Show. But enough about that. Just to give you a little forewarning about what's going on. Good friend Joey over at Eat the Boot came over. We were going to sit down and do the Super Movie Throwdown, and we did. But we kept going. It seemed like we had a lot on our minds, and we were delirious from 4 hours of just straight talking. And it's almost like we're drunk towards the end of this episode. We weren't, but you would assume that we drank a lot because we were just half asleep, delirious. I don't think we even know what we said half the time. So it's pretty entertaining. I went back and looked at it and I was like, I don't even know if we should release this, but of course we're going to release it. So again, this is going to be 2 parts. I'll do an intro on that one too. You can catch that one a little bit later from this one. First things first, it's the first pilot episode of the Super Movie Throwdown. And these throwdowns are pretty fun. So we're definitely going to do it again. But as you can see from the video, I had no format. I was just like, you pick 3 movies and I'll pick 3 movies and we'll just talk about it. And that's what we did. It's basically, somebody wound up winning, but the thing is there was no points. It's like, whose line is it anyway? I mean, there's no fucking point system. We're just going through and doing whatever. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to the next one we do because this could be something pretty big for us. So we're gonna keep doing it. It's a lot of fun. Let me know what you think. So without further ado, part 1 of 2 with Joey. This is Super Movie Throwdown or Showdown, whatever I don't even know what I said. It's one of those. Three, 2, 1. Welcome to the Jeff Vance Show. This is the exciting premiere episode of the movie Showdown Throwdown episode. We're going to go through our 3 favorite movies from certain points of time. We have I think we're doing 80s action movies. We're going to do 90s comedies, and we're doing a current MCU movie. So what I mean by current MCU is not going to be The Punisher from a million years ago with Dolph Lundgren. Okay. But it could be. But it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay. So we're going to basically go round by round and see which one reigns supreme. And we're going to be honest. So, if he wins a round, he gets the round. I'll give it to him. But if I win the round and he agrees, then I win the round. We'll see who wins out of the 2 of us.
And we've got no idea what the parameters could be. It could be, I think this character could beat your character up. I just think this one was a better written movie. I feel like I'm gonna reach for some really ridiculous points.
Look, if we're not reaching for some ridiculous points, then what is the point?
Well, like my friend always said, if it's an action movie, there's got to be an explosion.
Yes, explosions are important in just about every action movie you can think of, even to the point where it became a parody of itself.
Oh yeah.
In any movie now, it's like people just no, and then boom, an explosion. Like, okay, yeah.
I can't wait to get to my action film because I'll get into it. I feel like it's a parody of itself, really.
Good grief. I can only imagine. I have a good one picked out, so we're gonna get right into it. Okay, you want to go first?
I will.
Okay.
I
First
think,
up, 1980s action movie.
yeah, I think this is hyper obvious,
Uh-huh.
but Predator.
Ooh,
Not
Predator.
not Predators, not the Predator, Predator. Which is weird that they consistently just tried different plays on that name as they made future worse versions of the first one.
Very true. It doesn't get any better than the first one, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer with the whole Predator series because it doesn't. It really like the second one was enjoyable from like a campy point of view, but I watched it a few months ago. It came on like TBS or something, and I'm sitting there like, what am I watching? Why is this even a thing? This is so unrelated to the first film. Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. The first
It was bizarre.
the second Predator is very similar to how the second Jurassic Park went down. It's just like you're watching, you're like, why did we do this?
Because of the first one?
Yeah, because money.
Yeah.
Because lots of money.
Because money. You got our ticket. We're here. Now we're going to figure out why these people are, why we have predators on this random place doing random things.
Predator was one of the first films that I remember like loving, and then years passed, and then going back and watching and going, oh, that had this guy in it, that had this one in it, this one. Like that didn't happen a lot before that. For my knowledge, I wasn't really into the specific actors and actresses in films, but that was one of the first one where like years later, I'm like, Carl Weathers was in Predator. Oh my, I forgot he was in that. Now, of course, now at our age, we know who was in it. We know all the things they went on to do, like Jesse Ventura, like, you know,
best line in any movie ever. Like that. Well, I'm jumping into your movie, but like my favorite line from Predator is like, "Hey, you're bleeding." I ain't got time to bleed.
got time to bleed. Yeah, that's a good one.
Beautiful.
That's one of those lines that goes on the, like if you're doing a top 100 best action film one-liners, that's in there. That might be top 5.
I'd agree with that.
And I also feel like probably 90% of those one-liners are going to come from 80s, early 90s movies.
It's true. They don't make them like they used to. They're trying.
I'm waiting for the action
hard.
renaissance. I'm waiting for it.
It's bound to happen. Once the superhero stuff dies down a little
Oh,
bit,
yeah.
they'll jump back into that. Westerns will probably make a comeback, especially with Yellowstone and everything.
Yeah, I'm surprised Westerns haven't yet because of Yellowstone. I remember when 310 to Yuma came out, which is like 20 years ago now, the remake of it with Russell Crowe and oh god, I'm blanking. Ben Foster was in it.
Ben Foster.
And it was so good, and it felt like there was about to be a comeback of that whole genre, and then it just didn't happen. They were just like, yeah, that was good. That was good. Which obviously, the age I was in, I didn't realize it was a remake then, because the internet wasn't what it is today. Like something, even you get a sniff of a film coming out now, and you instantly know if it was a remake or not. Back then, it was like your favorite film. You might love it for 5-6 years before you realize, oh, there was 3 other versions of that.
Which is wild, because if you look at like movies and where we're at now, where everything seems to be like a remake or a reimagining, or what is the other one? Reboot.
Yeah.
Well, everything's kind of like that. Like all the original stuff that like our parents think was the original was actually a remake of something too, but they didn't know because they didn't have the internet.
I saw a breakdown somebody did earlier. It's probably I didn't look it up because you do that thing where you put a pin in it in your head. I'm gonna look that up later, and then you just don't.
Yeah.
The guy was saying that apparently there's a list of 36 premises, and it states that there are only 36 plot premises in existence ever. So every film, every book, every comic, every video, everything's going to fit into one of these 36 plots. There's nothing original ever again.
Yeah.
You're just going to change people, places, time, all that. It's like you're going to change how you dress it up, but it's all been done. And that kind of was depressing. I was like, well, shit.
That's in the crazy part to that point. Like you'll see something and you'll be like, man, that's the craziest shit I've ever seen. And somebody will be like, hey, it's just Star Wars again. You know that, right? Well, Star Wars in itself is a retelling of the old Asian cinema movies. I can't remember what they were called. Seven Samurai, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be a retelling of that, but it's like, it's it is what it is. If we enjoy the movie, we enjoy the movie.
Well, yeah, which is always wild. I'm going to get back on track in a second, but people's argument against Avatar is always it's just Fern Gully with blue alien things. And I'm like, saying something is just like something else. That's to me, that's not argument. It's like, did you not enjoy it? Okay, call it trash if you didn't enjoy it. Like, I mean, it's just strange because everything's gonna just be, oh well, that's just another version of this. Now, granted, every now and then you have a Tusk or something come out where you're like, all right, that shit was weird.
Yeah. Kevin Smith will keep you on your toes. Red State was good too.
Oh yeah. Red State was great.
It's insane movies, but Tusk, that's one of those. It's like you put on while you're going to sleep. Why not? You lay back, like 30 minutes in, you're like,
what? Yeah, nobody's going to be like on? Tusk. That was just another Fox and the Hound. What? I brought my friend to watch Tusk, and I did not tell him what it was about. And when I tell you, about halfway through the movie, I could feel him looking at me. Like, I'm pretty sure he spent 5 minutes staring at the side of my head, just wait. Like he checked out on the film, and he was just like, "Why did you bring me to this film?" And sure enough, I finally looked at him, and I just smiled, and he said, "I hate you. I hate you. Why are we here?" And I was like, "Just be quiet. It's gonna get good.
Here it comes. Here it comes." I just teased that last time. It's like bringing a friend to a movie after you've already seen it when it's one of those films is one of the greatest feelings.
Oh yeah,
because you know what's coming and they don't. Like spoiler in Avengers, like in that first scene. I don't think it's Infinity War. I think it's the second one. Where no, it's the first one. In Infinity War, like the first opening scene is when they're on that ship.
Yeah.
And they just straight break Loki's neck, and he just turns blue and like falls.
Oh yeah, you bring your friend that's like, oh my god, I love Loki. Like that's my favorite character, dude. I hope he does some cool stuff. Oh yeah, dude, he's rad in this movie. You got to see this scene he does with Captain America. You're gonna love it. It's great. You're sitting there and snap, and you just see them go, oh,
like lifeless body. It's like,
but that's my favorite.
He'll get up, right? He's not really dead, is he?
He okay?
Yeah. He's always turned blue like that and just fell over onto the floor.
Yeah.
And then Hulk gets the crap beat out of him. And they're like, what
this movie is not going to go well.
Yeah. This is not what you came for.
So on Predator, one thing before you reveal yours, because this is very blanket. I'm trying to think of all the things that are unrelated to trying to one up another film. The one thing I'll say, depending on what you come out with, I am a sucker for anything that uses sci-fi as the secondary tier. So like action sci-fi, Predator. It's an action film, it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't exist without the sci-fi side of it. And I always say having sci-fi as your secondary it's almost like a cheat code for films. It's like Alien, for example. It's a horror movie. But that sci-fi shift is just like it's such a cheat code because what's scarier than scary things? Scary things in space. And I feel that way about Predator. That's why it's such a good action film, because it's not just, Johnny number 1 fighting bad Johnny number 2.
Practical effects.
Yeah, exactly. Which
make it real. Anytime you use practical effects.
Another reason why we aren't yet in the renaissance of action films, because they just refuse to do it. Look, I'm not going to ever hate on Marvel films and stuff. I love them for what they are. So I think it's weird when people bag on them for not using practical effects. I'm like, that's just not the world they exist in. I don't feel like you could make a really good Marvel, a really good MCU film. You can make a good Marvel film, but an MCU, like the way they've established it, I mean, your first movie out the gate was Iron Man. You're gonna have CG. It's part of the packaging. So, but yeah, that's my vibe that's why I picked Predator, because I just really love that angle of meshing those two things. And 80s was a perfect time because sci-fi was just so well done in the 80s, because we bought into so much cheesy crap that we wouldn't buy now.
Yeah.
Like when people pull out devices and they're like, hey, get me this. Now we're just like, oh, it's like an iPhone.
Yeah.
Back then we were like, what is that? It's a remote control and he's talking to Ricky in another state.
Or it's like touching the head thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Back then, that's like next level. There's no way we're just going to talk into our head and somebody will hear it.
It's almost disturbing how much we just accept that stuff as normal now. Just like, oh, yeah, it's Bluetooth.
Yeah.
When I was 13, I was like, he just talked by touching his ear.
Or the whole Star Trek with like computer Tell me, that's hey Google.
Yeah.
You know,
What's wild is there's going to be a time, whether it's in our lifetime or not, but eventually somebody's going to be able to beam you up. Like it's going to happen.
makes sense.
And it's not weird that it's going to happen and people are going to be like, oh my God, they just teleported somebody. What's weird is that there's going to be a period in time where it's not weird.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be like, yeah, he teleported. Big deal.
Normal shit.
They're going to go back and watch. Somebody's going to dig this episode up and go, what are they talking? Ooh, teleporting. It's so hard.
We predict the future. That's what we do here.
Yeah. First time you've ever heard of teleporting
was right here.
Yeah. Comment below.
In 2022 is the first mention of teleportation. That and Google. We did it all. We've won, America.
Send the check.
Or I'll get into that in a minute. I just thought of something.
What do you got?
Oh, I got something for you. But just piggybacking on Predator, I think before I release mine, and it pisses me off because that was such a good call. I thought I had you. Now it's a battle. Predator did use practical effects throughout the entire movie. There's only a few segments where he goes invisible and things like that.
Yeah.
But the realism behind it, not necessarily the characters in the jungle with Predator, but the idea of some wild ass creature trying to kill a dude. That's the premise of Predator. But it's realistic. If I was lost in a jungle and I heard like a tiger, it'd be me versus the tiger for about 3 hours. And that's what you get in Predator, which is really cool.
Predator is, what if a tiger was chasing you in the jungle and it had missiles?
Yeah.
Like tiger chasing me scary. Wait, it's got what?
It's insane.
It's a shark with lasers.
With freaking lasers in his hand.
Now, I will tell you, so there was two that popped immediately into my head whenever you're like, all right, an 80s action film.
Mm-hmm.
The first one actually wasn't Predator. Predator's always in my heart, so it's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
But the first thing I thought was Lethal Weapon. I love Lethal Weapon.
Ooh.
Right? So that was my first inclination.
Out. Action movie in the 80s.
And I started thinking about it and I was like, well, if he picks Die Hard, I automatically lose. I automatically lose against Lethal Weapon. There's something core about Die Hard that I can't compete with Lethal Weapon. So I was like, well, if I pick Lethal Weapon, there's a chance he'll pick Die Hard. Now, can I stand up to Die Hard with something? Yes. I could stand up to it with Predator because sci-fi action combo. So I went with it. I was like, all right, I got a little armor here. I got a little protection, but then dipped into my head, well, what if he goes for the same thing? What if he's like, oh, I'm going to go with a combo too?
Well, you're in luck. I did go with a combo. I went with the one, the only RoboCop. 80s cop drama mixed in with sci-fi, set in the future from the 80s, directed by not an American. Yeah.
I'm trying not to show how disappointed I am that it's such a good pick because it's like it's got that like biotech sci-fi too. So it's like mine's like, well, I've got a creature. And you're like, well, I got a robot cop.
They both have weapons popping out of their body though, so that's cool.
Yeah. It automatically makes me think Predator versus RoboCop. That would be an awesome fight.
Ooh. That'd be insane.
The only thing that like kind of kills it for me is like I do feel like as high tech as the Predator was, he had a lot of trouble killing some dudes. Now I know he was toying with him. I know part of like what the director has gone on to defend how unable to just murk them easy. Oh, he was toying with them. Okay, well, yeah, sure. That's a good way to explain away your big plot hole. I don't remember RoboCop having trouble hitting his targets very much. I'm pretty sure he would just zero in and probably blow the dome off of Predator. Unfortunately, now maybe Predator had his mask on. Maybe he would stand some chance. I don't know how strong that alien metal was. So I say maybe if he would get shot, in the armored face, and hopefully he's got some kind of like, he picks up on, okay, that's what his weapon is. I'm gonna put that in because Predator is supposed to be like a super hunter of some sort, so he's supposed to be able to adapt. So hopefully he could take one shot and then adapt, or just get his whole dome blown off in one shot.
It would be a tough call. They both have heat vision. Difference is, well, RoboCop really couldn't get fooled if he does cold. He'd be able to detect him. Because I don't think Predator would like put that in the bank. But I do know that Predator, the reason he was on the planet was like it was a training ground.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, maybe this Predator, the alien that was fighting Arnold and his friends, which is what the movie should have been called, Arnold and Friends.
Arnold and Friends.
Versus the monster. Like an Abbott and Costello movie with Arnold. But with it being like a training ground, this is like his first foray into life. And it's like normally he'd just pop in and just kill these people. And all of a sudden, like these people actually have guns and shit.
Yeah.
So imagine, that's what I want to see. I want to see an animated Predator about him becoming a man and getting sent to the planet where his brother got sent to a planet too. And it was like lifeless beings that were barely moving. He's like, yeah, look at my trophies. He's like, oh, good luck on your trip, bro. And then he goes to Earth. And we got these big ass dudes with like machine guns.
Wait a second. My cousin sent me a screenshot. He killed a monkey and said it threw a rock at him.
Yeah.
This guy has a rocket launcher.
Granddad came here and he got hit with a fire stick. That was it. Now I'm getting shot with like rockets. What the fuck is this one guy covering himself in mud? I can't even see him. How did he know?
And now just extrapolate that to you show up and it's RoboCop.
Well, there you go.
Like, wait a second. Now, here's another thing. I don't remember how much they go into the technology of the RoboCop, build.
Uh-huh.
Is the science in that world? Is he actually warm? He might not be. It's a dead body. It's a dead body, and you've got to assume the technology's come so far. Maybe it's got some kind of cold fusion going on. Maybe he's because if he's completely invisible to the Predator, that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
I didn't think about that.
If that's the situation, I will not be arguing from the point of view of a fight between the two.
Or to look like a squirrel.
Yeah,
you know, like the only heat he sees is probably a head.
Yeah, he just sees a head. He's like, oh man, I'm looking for this guy. This squirrel keeps getting in my way.
Raccoon or something.
Like he gets shot. And, that squirrel bites like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, so RoboCop was for sure like the minute we were like 80s action movie, I was like, oh, I know exactly. Because RoboCop had it all. It had practical effects. You saw a dude get melted.
It wasn't surprisingly brutal then. It's surprisingly brutal looking back, kind of realizing not a lot of other film. It was crossover. It was just niche. God, why am I defending your movie?
Same reason I defended yours.
You're like, go on.
Continue.
It was just niche enough to where it seemed like, they used to come out with a lot of straight to videotape. I can't remember all the companies that did it. Yeah.
Blockbusters or something.
You get a bunch of those that were like, you were always like wanting to rent them because you're like, oh, maybe I'll see a titty in it. And, the truth comes out. Yeah, there's like a big Fight Club situation. And like there's a random stripper in the scene because it was the 80s. And of course there was.
Yeah.
But then you get RoboCop where it's like, it's got all that just debauchery and stuff. And it's like, wait, this one crossed over. It was a popular movie that went hard R, just crazy.
It was an insane hard R because it was like I said, it was basically written by a dude that thought Americans were so stupid. So like I can't remember where he's from, but I remember I saw an interview or something about it where it was like it was so ridiculous, like how much he was like, yeah, this is how they talk. Yeah, I'm putting that in there.
Yeah.
It was like, and you had the dad from that 70s show. Mm-hmm. Playing your main villain.
And how good was he too?
Like he was amazing. You can look up full on just his clips from RoboCop in like a reel and play them. It's his choices and lines. At one point, he meets up with a drug lord, and the drug lord's having wine, and so he sits there and he talks to the guy, and then he takes his fingers, sticks it in the guy's wine cup, and goes. just like that. And then the guy just grabs his wine and drinks it. Like, I'll show you. I don't care about your fingers.
It's
Insane.
like, was that again with the way the internet is now? We find out so many like little things about films. Back then, you didn't really get the inside scoop. Was that improv? That feels improv.
I want to say that it was written in the script for him to do that.
How do you read that script and goes, "Yeah, I'll take this film"?
Or he's already halfway into it.
I feel like he got like halfway through the script. He's like, "This is a good, yeah, this is great."
This is insane.
First day on set, he's like, "Hey, look, we're going to start 4 pages." Oh, I haven't read that far. It's fine. We'll just do it. He's like, and then dip you.
They mailed the synopsis. I was like,
well,
so
already
there's a
cashed
robot
the check.
cop. You're the bad guy. Here's the script. See you on Monday. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. He gets it. He's like, I want my fucking phone call. Spits blood on the paperwork and stuff.
You know that had to be the original title too, probably on Robot Cop.
Robot Cop?
What?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. RoboCop sounds so much better though. Imagine if they had a terrible title. It would have been over. Mechanical
Cop.
The joys.
Man,
how sleek was his armor too though?
It
was like a 80s streamlined like a lowrider cover.
Well, and you know, this is something that's odd about it as a just in film history. You know, you go watch a YouTube video that you watched 15 years ago or whatever, however long YouTube's been around, and it's the same video it's always been, but now it's all grainy and crazy. And you're like, was it this bad then? It's like, it probably was, but you just don't remember it being because that's where the technology was.
Yeah.
If you watch RoboCop now, in the back of your adult head, you're going, he's moving so slow. Just push him over. Back then, you didn't even think about that. You're like, it's a robot cop. He's about to kill all these people. Nobody was like, look how slow he's moving. Like, you just accepted that as gospel. Just like, yeah, he's a robot, so he's going to kill them. And like, nobody was like, hey, he's moving really slow. Shut up, Rick. I don't care if he's moving slow. They
Rick.
took his brain. He's just a hand and a brain. That's all that's left.
Yeah.
How fast do you expect him to move?
He does the moves like his kid liked on TV. What do you need to know? He moves slow, though. Yeah, but look at him.
Which, this is another thing that, I don't know if I'll factor this in because it's one movie versus one movie, but RoboCop 2 was pretty good. Predator 2 was So, unfortunately, there
was titties in Predator 2, though.
Fair.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I think that every subsequent Predator put together is not as bad as the third RoboCop. That was the one where
with the kid.
That was the one where they had the other, like the
samurai,
yeah,
the ninja,
and they and I don't know what happened with the production company, or if they just wanted to make some money. They had to go like PG-13 with it. So all the stuff that made RoboCop,
TV series.
Yeah, everything that made RoboCop great was gone except the RoboCop. It was like, okay, we still got a robot cop. What else are we going to keep? Nothing. What? We're not. Everything else is gone. Yeah, we don't get a couple curse. No, we're not cursing. Okay, we get some titties. No titties. Titties are out.
It was all gone.
Yeah, it's like, okay, but surely when we shoot someone, lots of blood, right? Actually, no, they're just going to fall and go, So,
or the aliens route would have been cool, like with the androids. I didn't realize how violent that movie was. The first Alien.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, Aliens has always been the one that I go back and watch, but that first Alien movie, it was violent. But what they did is they replaced the android blood with milk. And it had like white tubing, and so it was like ripping guts and stuff out, but it was all milk.
That's why I say that. So Aliens, like, it really just that horror angle gave them such a good launch pad, which they don't do enough in film lately. Like, take a horror premise and then smash it with another genre of film. Because again, I really do think it's a cheat code, and I'm sure I'm not thinking of like a bunch of recent ones that have come out and done that, but it's like, it's there, the opportunity. You get a lot of I wouldn't even call the horror action films they have these days, they end up being revenge porn. Really, it's just like, oh, it's a horror movie all the way up till the last quarter of the movie, then the person who's been getting chased is going to suddenly be a badass. It was cool the first time. Stop doing that. Stop it. Just let people get killed. That's what horror is. Just let them die.
You ever see the movie Feast?
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I have.
I recommend go watch it.
Feast.
It was a really, you probably know, maybe if you're here for the movie stuff, Feast was cool because it had Henry Rollins in it,
Okay.
and it had like your entourage of like characters that were in the whatever, and they all had the little info blurbs. So it's like, here's Carrie, boom, she's a blah blah blah, she's cool, scared, going blah blah blah, and they go to each of the people,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like you're just watching a movie. You're like, okay, there's the hero, and then about 45 minutes into the movie, you're like, oh, that wasn't the hero. That's the hero. That's the hero. No, that's not the hero. Here's the hero. Here's the hero. And it keeps you on your toes where it's like, it's about time somebody did that. Because it's like, I think we had to talk about this too, where it's like, there's so much hand holding in movies.
Oh, yeah.
No, me and Paul talked about this. There's so much hand holding in a lot of these movies, especially Marvel, to where it's like, we're going to show you this. This is why this is happening. And then eventually, like, you just need to quit.
Yeah.
Just throw it at us and see what happens.
Well, there was something that changed with audiences where foreshadowing suddenly molded into it. Well, it morphed into plot mapping.
Yeah.
Like foreshadowing used to be meant to like make you feel like, I feel like something's going to happen related to this. It may or may not. It's foreshadowing. It may be very secondary. Now it's literal plot mapping. It's like, hey, I've got my backpack. And then later on, they're like, how are we even going to carry this? I've got my backpack. It's like, and it's even as stupid as that sounds, it's more egregious than that sometimes. Sometimes it's like you're watching it and you're like, okay, I know I'm watching this scene 5 minutes in because it's going to happen later. And the bad part about it, almost anything I would mention is spoilers for those films because that's how obvious it is.
Yeah.
Which is another cool thing about Predator. You didn't really know what you were getting. Like first go into Predator, I was like, what's going on here? I remember going into Predator having no idea really anything about the Predator himself. Like it was pretty new. I mean, it was a creature film where the creature was humanoid. So it was like it was alien, but not in an alien setting, which is all strange. Which fun fact, I suppose. You know who the Predator was originally supposed to be? The actual role was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Would have been totally different.
Yeah, so there's footage somewhere, pictures of like the suit he was in, and the reason he ended up like, so he started filming, I think, and ended up saying like the suit was too hot, he didn't like it, and since you couldn't see his face, basically you can't see my face, how does this help my career? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how it all went down, but like they reworked the character, and the Predator that we've got, first of all, the way that the other one looked from the concept art and stuff, it would have been a shitty movie because of the way the Predator looked. So it's like, very good thing this all happened the way it happened, because the Predator we've got now, the actual Predator, it's like, I mean, iconic visual versus this weird alien looking thing. Like, so when I see the Predator, I think Predator. I don't think an alien thing. Like, to me, it's, you think of movie aliens and there's styles. There's categories. It's like, oh, what kind of alien is? Oh, it's a Predator style alien. To me, that means that the creature or the villain or the thing trying to kill you in this movie is going to be humanoid, weird looking, and it's gonna have a hunt style look to it. Like it's gonna be something that's very tactical looking. And then of course you've got aliens style aliens, and then you've got classic aliens, like you would have in Signs. Yeah. I really do that. I think that's one of my big arguments for what's so good about Predator, especially in the 80s, is it created a new category of alien in film. Like this is
more primal.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of had a purpose, but this one seemed like, in a weird way, like in an alternate Earth, these things were just walking around, fucking subscribing to YouTube channels.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing, that of all the Predator movies we've gotten, nobody's had the vision to give us a Predators existing on the Predator planet film.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be an odd one to reference, but wasn't it such an odd film to reference in relation to this? But Passion of the Christ, wasn't that all? Didn't they do that in Hebrew and it was all subtitles? I think it was.
I don't know.
So I believe it was, which at one time was the highest grossing rated R film of all time, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Very strange. But yeah, so a weird parallel to draw, but I'm pretty sure that film was all in Hebrew and it was subtitled. So could you do a Predator film where you don't have to, you do like a French film where it's medieval times in France and stuff. They end up just making them all speak English because that's what we understand, and they want to make money in the theaters in America. So, but to do it, how weird would it be just having Predators speak English? It would look stupid. So could you do a Predators film where it's subtitles and you've just got this language that they speak to each other?
100%.
And how good could it be? Because we haven't, maybe in the comics they have, but we really don't know much about the mythos of the whole backstory to what Predators are and stuff.
I think that'd be great. That's an excellent idea. And there's been a couple of movies that have done that and have done really well. One of which was Apocalyptico.
Yes.
And there was a recent one that was similar to that, but it's about like man's best friend, but it was like a caveman.
Yeah.
Like the first dogs. I can't remember the name of it.
I remember the ads for it.
The entire movie was all subtitles. I took Logan, my son, to go see it, and he's like, I'm not reading this movie, Dad. So we had to leave and we went and saw something else. But like all subtitles.
Which Apocalyptico, was that a Mel Gibson directed film?
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely makes me feel about 98% sure that Passion of the Christ was all in Hebrew. God, it's so long ago. Talking about that like it's a 20-year-old movie is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember when the Passion of the Christ came out? It was so controversial. Now it's just like that film that had came out. I think it stayed. It's such a tangent, but I think it stayed like #1 rated R grossing film until like The Hangover.
Probably. Like I wouldn't doubt it. It says a lot about a lot of things.
Yeah. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. But in closing, I haven't really talked about RoboCop too much, but just know that it was special effects. It was graphic. It was so graphic. They had extra stuff that you had to wait and get like the unrated version to see. Like when they kill, what's his name? Murphy?
Yeah.
Is that his partner?
That's the woman. All right.
I don't know. I'm blanking out on it.
I'm blanking out on it all.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me. And it's like,
oh, what a good line too.
Yeah. That was good. You're coming with me, creep. Your move, creep. That's what it was.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me. I ain't got time to bleed.
The one-liners on both sides, though. Like, on RoboCop, your boy from that 70s show, like, he pops into, like, some drug den, and there's, like, some half-naked girls, like, all around in there. And he's like, bitches, leave.
Bitches, leave. Oh, God, that wouldn't be a great T-shirt. Bitches, leave.
It's just delivery. Bitches, leave.
Yeah, I mean, look,
they do.
Front to back, both films, cheese. All the cheese you could imagine.
I'm giving it a draw.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's funny. You're like, yeah, I didn't really talk much about RoboCop, but
too damn close.
You almost don't have to talk much about it because it's that integral.
That song too,
dude. So one of the films that I love that's got a similar vibe to RoboCop for me would be Demolition Man.
Ooh.
And I feel like you've got to have it in the conversation. I don't think this makes things good or bad, but if you don't have RoboCop, you don't have Demolition Man. Like it
Correct.
doesn't. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It doesn't progress to that. And that's again.
It's a genre starter.
Yeah, it's a draw because the same thing with Predator. Like there's so many films you don't have if you don't have Predator.
Going back and watching it though, how crisp and clean it is, and how dirty it is because it's like a mixture of the two. Like you get to the police station, everybody's clean and put together except for the people that are being arrested.
Yeah.
Then you go to the streets and it's like you said, it's like the biohazard kind of dystopian shit's fucked up. Like everywhere, and it's just and RoboCop is clean, and every time that song hits, I forgot to talk about the song. Where it was like dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah,
dun 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 dun. That's just
every
time he's in the car. That's what you hear
when that music hits. All you hear is, "We about to do some righteous shit."
Oh yeah, you know it's about to go.
But the funny thing is, you get towards the end of the film, and you know all the corruption of the storyline. You're like, wait, every time that song's hit, he hasn't even been in control. He's just following orders. It's not a righteous song. This is evil.
It's true. Shame. We're gonna give it a draw.
I 100% agree.
I pick a draw on that one. I can't really pick a winner.
If you're watching this, tell us what you think.
Yeah, what would be your 80s action movie? Put it in the comments for us.
Yeah, what do you got that you think can stand up to the Predator and the RoboCop or the Mechanical Man?
Mechanical Man Cop guy.
That sounds like a porn title.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Probably the exact same premise too.
Yeah.
He was the man before, but now he's more than man.
Except the only thing left's not going to be one hand and one head. It's going to be his head and something else.
That is true.
A foot.
Yeah, foot. That's exactly what I was talking about. Where were we? Round 2. We're going to 90s comedies. I'll start this one off. And this one holds a special place because, I mean, there were some obvious comedies I was going to go for, but I didn't know what you were bringing to the table. So I went with something that could kind of play to a lot of levels, right? I wanted one that pretty much was me in the 90s, because when you're growing up in the 90s, you wanted that movie to hit that like you could really relate to. And my movie is Beavis and Butthead Do America. It's
what a weird one. What a weird movie to pick.
I wanted to go obvious. At first I was like, y'all pick like Night at the Roxbury, something like that. That'd be good. Then I'm like, well, I don't know what he's doing. I'll do Beavis and Butthead Do America, because it was crazy because it had a little bit of everything. It's animated. First of all, it's animated. My grandmother let me skip school to go watch Beavis and Butthead Do America, and it did not disappoint. Her favorite line, of course, is the old lady in the plane when they're going to Vegas, and she's like, she had a slur. She was like an old lady inside the plane, and she's sitting next to Beavis, of all people, and she's like, I can't wait to go to Vegas. I just love to play those slots. And Beavis like, yeah, sluts. I love sluts. And she's like, oh, do you? I love sluts too. And it just, she died. I mean, there was no one near her age in the theater, but she's next to me cackling because the little lady thinks she's talking about slot machines, but instead
sluts.
Slut machines.
Is the movie, so if I make any reference that gets confused with an episode of the show, we'll see. The film is the one where the guy was like, yeah, let me do that witch for whacking in my trailer. So was that in the movie where they were like whacking off in his trailer or something?
I think that's from the show, but he's in the movie. Like he's something about that I'd have to remember, but basically they're on a road trip. They get lost. Or no, they're going to hook up with some chicks that they think they're hooking up with chicks or something. And they just go on this giant road trip and wind up in different situations. But along the way, their old neighbor, who eventually becomes Hank Hill.
Right.
For those of you watching, King of the Hill, Hank Hill's character was based on a character they created for Beavis and Butthead.
So are they technically separate characters, or are they canonically the same character?
That's an even better question.
I'm
not sure, but I wouldn't doubt it if he just did.
I know it's the same exact character design,
it's
for sure.
Same exact character, yeah. So, interesting enough, they're supposed to be coming back. I think it'd be
yeah. They've got new episodes coming.
That's nuts. But
he said nuts.
Yeah, exactly. That and his energy drinks for the first time or something. Like on the plane, they had like Red Bull or something, and he just goes ape shit. Or coffee. Maybe that's what it was.
I can't wait for those kind of references. Like, Man, you got me kind of jacked about new Beavis and Butthead. Red Bull gives you wings. Beavis gives me a boner. Like they're gonna.
You said boner.
There'd be so many bad jokes.
Dude.
Like that's another one that I think about. Here I go defending your movie again. But like that was one of the first films I can remember like being surprised it was getting made. So like, you know, you're into Beavis and Butthead. Oh, this is hilarious. It was almost, which funny, it's on the same network. It was like when the first Jackass movie got made.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, wait, that show I watch, they're gonna pay to do a whole movie. They're gonna put this in a theater. I remember not believe. So this is a weird, unfun fact. I couldn't even. So I've lived in Gonzales my whole life. We couldn't even watch Beavis and Butthead for most of the time it was on because the crazy church people around here decided to do some kind of petition, and all of our services around for. I mean, it must have been like a 5-6 year period. We didn't have MTV. We couldn't even access it. They got it taken off of all of like
holy cow.
The cable services didn't provide it because they had weird petitions going around. And I remember like we had zero access to it. You had to have the special packages. Like if you had a friend that had like satellite TV or whatever, it was like, oh, I get to watch Beavis and Butthead. My mom, you ain't going over there.
That's hilarious. But that's how it was. And it was one of those things. It's like, this will never see the light of day. Like it was my little thing that I watched on TV. That Liquid Television too. That was cool.
Yeah.
For 5 seconds, then it was gone. But MTV, they took some chances back in the 90s. Beavis and Butthead was one of them. And then Daria, of course, was a character.
So I love that Beavis and Butthead, which I think this relates to the film because the show got the film made. I love that they still had music in it. Like they were watching and commenting on. It's hilarious to go back and watch some of the comments they made on some of the music videos they were watching. It was funny then, but they were just taking the piss with current things. It's like making fun of the Kardashians or Kanye West. Now it's like it's current, so it's funny, but it's topically funny. Now when you go watch the episode where they're making fun of they're watching a Slayer video and they're making fun of those guys, but here it is 20 years later, it's even funnier because it's not so much topical anymore, but it's historical because some of the things they say, some of the jokes they make, it's like, oh, that came to fruition. Like they kind of predicted the future. They made fun of these people in a way that's what those people became. Or it's so out of pocket that they're nothing like that it's like, it's even funnier because it just seems like the biggest insult or the funniest commentary. It's weird how it holds up because it doesn't. Yeah. Like some of the jokes are so cheesy. They're so bad. Like I was saying about, they'll say something funny. He's like, huh. And he literally just says it's like, it's every dick and fart joke ever, but it's funny because it's so bad 20 years later.
Yeah. It's, I
want to watch that movie now.
Dude, it was, I watched it not too long ago, I think.
Did you feel like it held up as far as like keeping your attention and like being like, I'm glad I decided to rewatch this?
Yeah. I mean, all the jokes still pretty much land. Of course, there's some off-color stuff in there too, but like that's from a time period where, people were just making jokes and not getting hit for it. So they, they did their thing, but it held up pretty well. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I forgot they were in it. They have a whole song. Love Roller Coaster, like in the middle of it, they're animated into it. Overall, yeah, it's crazy because they changed the generation. I remember everybody in school was doing those voices.
Yeah, oh yeah, for
a good solid 2 or 3 years. Where it's like if you had a friend sitting next to you in class, if anything off color happened in the book, it was like, oh.
If you're between the ages of probably 30 and 50 and you say you've never pulled your t-shirt up on top of your head and did this, you're a liar. You've done it at least once. You may have done it in your room while no one was around and went, great corner. Like you may have been embarrassed to do it, but you've done it. Everybody's done it. Whatever, if you're blowing your nose or wiping your ass, whatever you're doing, you've went, give me TP. You've definitely said, give me TP.
Yeah.
TP for my bumhole. God, it's such an, I feel like it's an God, you came out of nowhere with that one on me because it's animated. because
Yeah.
you say 90s comedy, I start thinking of like Liar Liar and Billy Madison, you know, all these like
Billy Madison, that's a good one.
see, I thought about some of those because they're so massive, but I feel like they weren't game changers. They were success changers.
Yeah.
They hit a stride where it's like, oh, now, you know, now it's a thing. It's kind of like, you know, Testament existed and Slayer existed, and then Metallica hit stride.
Mhm.
It doesn't make them any more or less original than those other bands. That's how I feel about some of these films. Like I said, Liar Liar is a great one. I think that is cross-generational. It's still funny to this day. It's a great premise, but it's a very situational, like this exact thing, you know, the plot point, this exact thing is what makes every scene funny. Whereas I was like, what's a film where everything's funny regardless of this specific plot? I wanted something that felt like a bunch of sketches loosely tied together.
Oh goodness.
And
What's the movie?
well, I'm going to say this first. I feel like you did the same, like you nailed that with Beavis and Butthead,
Yeah.
especially it being a road trip film. It does. It feels like on the road, cut a scene. On the road, cut a scene. Didn't they go to they went to a dam in the film, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it's like it sticks out. Certain parts of that film stick out because it was like, here's what we're doing, but that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie isn't the road trip. The point of the movie was Beavis and Butthead doing Beavis and Butthead stuff in situations that they wouldn't get into if they weren't on a road trip. Like, well, they're not going to be at a dam during the TV show. How are they going to get there? Like, let me get up off my couch and walk 800 miles to a dam. No, we need to give them a road trip. How do we do that? We give them a film. So my choice is Friday, because very similar, came out of nowhere. Now the difference here is it came out of nowhere completely. Like, I don't feel like there was any predecessor to Friday. I know that they had. It's funny that there's black comedies and then there's black comedies. Like, so obviously, if you're in the Ricky Gervais side of things, black comedy means dark comedy. It means dark, you know, topics and just uncomfortable things to joke about. And then starting from Friday, again, I'm sure other films did it before, but Friday put black-led comedies on the map. It took African-American stars and we're like, hey, we got a story to tell.
It was a real story.
Right. It was very real. So real that people that look like me and you probably, while we're laughing, didn't understand the true gravity of how much it meant to, which it's a comedy, but I'm going to go into like how much it meant to just film culture as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you laugh through it and then you watch it again. You laugh through it. Your friends laugh at it. You talk about it. And then 10 years passes and you're watching it and you're like, me, especially being from Louisiana, you know,
yeah,
like we got like an inside look at what it's like growing up in that neighborhood where it's like, I come from a very safe neighborhood, you know, a very safe population of people where it's just like, that was funny to me because it felt like a humorous premise. Whereas it kickstarted, I mean, just a revolution of black comedies. I mean, so many good films come after that. And the funny thing is a lot of the branches on that tree start from Friday, next Friday, Friday after next.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, Bernie Mac's career for my viewing started there. Like that's my first which was he in the first one? I'm trying to remember which one he was in.
Bernie Mac is second one.
Second one.
After they won the lottery.
That's right. But yeah, and I mean, look, you get, so first of all, Ice Cube out of nowhere as a comedy force. Like, what? He's this is comedy now. It's the guy from NWA. And it didn't even feel weird. It felt like it made sense right out the gate. There's a lot of people that do crossover films and stuff from other like athletes and musicians and stuff that it feels weird. I remember the first time seeing Rihanna in she had like a kind of secondary role in Battleship, that movie Battleship that came out.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're watching it, and she comes on screen, and it's like, oh, it's Rihanna in this Battleship movie.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like that was Craig. That was not Ice Cube as Craig. That was Craig. Like almost immediately you bought it. You were into it.
It's relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And
like on many levels, because it was, everybody's been to somebody's house and just watched a friend get their ass chewed out by
oh
a
yeah.
dog. I got some pretty good stories about that myself. But that is one of my favorite scenes. Again, this is your movie, but I love this scene. Where is it? His dad's just in there eating.
Yeah.
How come I come home to get a pig feet and there ain't no pig feet? You up in there eating all my food? I'm a refrigerator. Did you pay for that? It's so funny. And then he leaves the bathroom with the damn
air
freshener can.
Just like people doing the Beavis and Butthead voices.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't said, don't go in there about 35, 45 minutes. And then look, fast forward almost 20 years and Bye Felicia catches on. Like that catches on. People use it for like 5 years on end. And then our generation starts to remember, wait, that's from them. And you're going back to, oh yeah, that's Felicia, that's Bye Felicia, that's where it is. Like that was so used before the entirety, like before the hive mind caught on that it was a reference from way back then. It's like the people using it knew, and then you heard it a lot, and then finally just 2 and 2 clicked, and you're like Friday's back.
Yeah, it always comes around. You were talking about like that's one of the first ones to do that. There's a few before that get there, but the road to get there was through In Living Color.
Oh,
it was through Low Down Dirty Shame, and I'm thinking of one more. I can't put my name on the title, but like Don't Be a Menace came after Friday.
Yeah,
Don't Be a Menace to Society in South Central.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe that was almost like a parody of a Friday slash.
Yeah, it was in that time. So that
Boys
was the thing.
Hood,
we had Boys in the Hood. We had Don't Be a Menace to South Central, the actual film, not the parody of it. Like you had, I mean, those would probably be the two biggest examples, but you had a lot of those like very real in the hood. This is what's going on in the streets, and it wasn't accessible to people that weren't familiar with it. We watched.
Well, they weren't comedies.
Yeah, that felt like a horror movie to somebody. A 10-year-old white kid. That's a horror movie to me. Oh my God, this happens. Oh my God, he shot it. He's a kid, and they just shot him. They shot a kid. Like that. You're like, oh. And then Friday was like, hey, what if we give you access? What if we make you feel comfortable because it's funny? But you're going to get to the end of this film, and gun violence is going to suddenly be a bit like, they talk about the gun throughout the film. And it's really like, it is like for a young white kid that grew up in a rural, just real chill area where, the most difficult thing you had to worry about all week was maybe what they were serving at lunch at school. It's like, oh, a gun. And you're like, oh, a gun. That's a funny movie. No big deal. The gun comes up again. Oh, it's the gun. Last scene was funny. Next scene will probably be funny. Oh God, they just snuck into somebody's house. They robbed somebody. That's a crime. But it's a funny crime. They did a funny crime. It's okay. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, they're fighting. They're just fighting. Oh God, he pulled out the gun. It's the gun. They're fighting and there's a gun. I've been laughing, but there's a gun. Is somebody about to get shot? This is and then the movie plays out. It ends, and little by little, you're like, okay, I just watched some real shit, but God damn, it was funny. Yeah. And for whatever reason, my mom and dad were laughing at it. My grandma laughed at it. One of my aunts, she lives in Georgia, and we went and visited her. This is probably 15 years after Friday came out. And we're talking about our favorite movies and stuff. She's like, my favorite movie is Friday. I was like, the fuck? What do you mean? What do you mean your favorite movie is Friday?
All right.
And sure enough, quoting it, knows all the scenes back to front. And it's just it was that kind of movie. It was a cultural phenomenon, such a phenomenon that there's still behind the scenes beef, and you can find all kind of YouTube videos of like pay discrepancies and stuff. It's crazy how little some of them got paid for the first film, because who knew? Who knew it was going to do that? That's where if I'm gonna try and edge out Beavis and Butthead, it was not a juggernaut put to film.
Mm-hmm.
It was a film that became a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Now, again, the really great parallel I see there is you've got Black America in the 90s represented as a comedy, and then you've got Beavis and Butthead, white America represented as a comedy, because very cultural things going on in both those films where it doesn't matter what people say. I know that people have friends of all different walks of life, and now it'd be a lot different. You watch both those films, and a kid that was our age then, but now, a 15, 16-year-old kid, they watch either of those movies and nothing's surprising or weird to them, because that's built into film culture now. A lot of crossover between cultural differences and stuff. But then if I had my best black friend and we went and saw Friday, and then we went and saw Beavis and Butthead back to back, we would both have completely different experiences in both films, but we'd be laughing our asses off.
There'd be a central line though.
Yeah,
that crosses both sides.
Right.
Because it's stuff that's funny to us is also funny to them, but like mixing the two. Like some of the jokes land on both sides of the tracks.
And they're both mature enough films where there's no coming of age bullshit in them. Yeah. I don't even, like, somebody might argue that the stuff with Craig and like, the gun, that's not coming of age. That's just like life lessons. I mean, this man had a job in the film. It was his day off. He got fired. Like, he was dealing with adult shit, which is funny looking back at the age that Craig's representing in that film and watching it now. I'm like, I can't believe they played him like he was that old. Like,
bro, we believe Tobey Maguire was in high school, so he had a fucking receding hairline. Joe Meglamazambo or whatever the fuck his name is was his bully.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he played I forget what Venom, whatever Venom's name is.
Oh yeah. I forget now.
I was gonna say Tom Hardy, but that's incorrect.
Flash Thompson.
Flash Thompson. He played Flash Thompson. He's like the worst line of the whole fucking movie, though. He's like, I don't want to fight you. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to fight me either. That's retarded, but
man, what a. I can't go with draw this time. I've got to lean in hard to Friday. It's just so good. I
already agreed with you.
It's such a phenomenon.
You win that one. Friday isn't. It's a better movie overall.
The crazy thing is, though,
but
because it's such a phenomenon and it's so burned into my brain, this conversation still makes me want to watch Beavis and Butthead more than it makes me want to watch Friday again. Because Friday, when I watch it, it's like comfort food. It's like I'm watching this thing that
starts from the credits. The minute the New Line Cinema starts creeping in, the music hits. I'm like, ugh.
But see, if I watched Beavis and Butthead Do America right now, I feel like I'd still get some surprises to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen that movie maybe 8 times in my life, and I'd still, again, this is the parallel between it coming from a show and having a setup. I'd be like, oh, that was in the movie. I thought that was one of the episodes. Like there'd be a lot of those moments.
You brought up the Damn episode. As you were telling me about it, I was like, so the funniest part about the Damn episode is like, it's a tour guide.
Yeah.
And so every time he says damn,
that's right. That's right.
In the back.
He's like, damn.
Every time I say damn, y'all keep laughing. This is my damn job. And they just lose their shit.
I love that the other characters in the Beavis and Butthead world were aware that they were stupid. It wasn't this thing where they were existing together. It was like, no. Everybody knew they were dumb. Like there's a lot of characters in television that like they play like that, where it's like they play the character as though it's just natural in that world. That's just how they are. Nobody's weird about it. Not in Beavis and Butthead. They laugh at a stupid joke, and the character, he's like you said, he's like, every time I say damn,
they're aware. But yeah, you get that one. All right. Let's switch gears. We're going to go to our favorite Marvel film from the MCU. And you get to go first this time.
So this was an easy choice for me because it's my favorite Marvel film, and I personally think it's the best Marvel film, and it's probably my number 3 favorite film of all time, between 3 and 5. It's one of my faves. Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
I am just. I don't think it would be hyperbolic for me to say that I'm in love with that film. I do not rewatch films, asterisk, because I do rewatch films, but I essentially don't, because there's maybe 10 movies that I'll intentionally go, I've seen this 100 times, I'm going to watch it again. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, I will put it on right now and watch it. I'll watch it tomorrow. I'll watch it 2 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I literally once figured out the timing to do the stupid New Year's Eve thing where you have a moment hit right when the clock strikes.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I started it at the appropriate time, and right whenever he says, before we get started, does anyone want to get off? Bam, New Year's. Like, I had it happen right then. And it wasn't worth it. It was not worth the time it took to figure that out.
Oh man.
But it felt cool. I was like, that was one of those years where everybody was like posting like, start this at this time, start this song at this time, this movie at this time, and this will happen. And I was trying to think of one. I was like, what's one nobody said? And I was like, yeah, before we get started, do you want to get off? So again, I'm waiting for the action film renaissance, and I felt like we got a little taste of it with that film because they went tactical, they went hand to hand with it. I mean, you had George St. Pierre in the film, like
that's Jumper.
Yeah, Jumper. And you've got them doing things in that film that the super strength is secondary sometimes. Like, you almost forget that it's Captain America. It's Cap. It's just Cap. Within the confines of that film, it's like, oh, it's Cap.
Yeah.
And with all these other characters calling him Cap so much, because it's like his team and it's all tactical and all this, which, Frank Grillo was so good in it. I always feel like he's been criminally underused in not only the Captain America series, but everything. Love that dude.
Got him in a Purge movie not so long ago.
Yeah, he was in 2 Purges. Good. Yeah,
we're driving the car.
Mm-hmm. He's one of those people that, so him, Scott Adkins, Iko Weiss, that's those guys that, like, I've got like a top like 10 dudes right now that I'm like, you are the ones that are going to bring back the action renaissance, because like they're putting out a lot of these straight to DVD, straight to streaming, and they're playing secondary characters in big films. I'm just waiting for the crossover. I'm waiting for somebody to get the budget, get the promotion, and do it. And I feel like we got a taste of that with The Winter Soldier. Like, it was such a good film. It was like a political thriller too. Like the things that were very MCU about it took a back seat at certain points because it got very Bourne Identity, where, you've got all the trying to work around the military aspect of it. Like, I think one of the best Marvel films was the first Iron Man, started the whole thing. I think it holds up, but I've got superior tech. I can basically do whatever I want. You're not going to stop me.
Yeah.
You don't have that in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's literally, hey, we're going to stop you. Like, they turn on Cap. They're like, we're going to stop you because of what you're trying to do. And that's what gets so good about it. That's where I would say that the moment where they try and apprehend him in the elevator, which is, in my opinion, top 5, possibly the best close quarters fight choreography of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely top 5. It's hard to argue against Old Boy and the hammer scene in the hallway. But right at that point where they try and apprehend him, and that's where I think it turns into a political thriller. It turns into like, what's going on? This is deep state stuff, and once he gets out of the facility, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it, you deserve the spoilers. But once he gets out of the shield facility, it slows down, but the plot doesn't slow down. Like, it's still progressing. Like, it's a growing story. It's well written. The plot's still moving, and they case the action so well. A lot of my favorite Marvel films, I feel like I'm waiting for the next action sequence, and I don't like that because I fly the MCU flag big time. Like, people that I'm tired of superhero films, I'm like, watch something else. I think it's weird to get tired of a genre of film because you can just not watch those films and watch other films. Yeah. It's very strange, and which is a whole different discussion. I feel like I'm going to dip into it a little bit. I feel like this is something that Captain America: The Winter Soldier did. The MCU is responsible for a lot of diversity in the film world. I mean, look at some of the characters that you wouldn't have if it wasn't for this. And I don't just mean them in MCU films. Look at Chadwick Boseman and everything he did. That star doesn't shine so bright if he's not Black Panther. That put the spotlight on him and said, hey, studios are going to put crazy money behind you now to do films like Ma Rainey's Big Black Bottom. It's like nobody's putting that kind of money behind that without things to launch you already. Yeah.
Name a Chris that's in MCU,
right?
And tell me if he didn't have a career or don't have a career. I mean, you have Chris Evans, who I'm not gonna lie. At the time, I was like, the guy from Not Another Teen Movie,
right?
He's in a movie. The guy that played Human Torch.
So I'm going to kick myself for not remembering her name because it's one of those like pieces of information. I try and keep it ready in my head, but the MCU has, in my opinion, she's done a few other films too. I say a few, it's probably like 30 other films.
I think I know who you're talking about. You haven't even said her name.
Casting director?
Huh?
The casting director for the MCU is
Vance.
Yes.
Something Vance.
It is.
Carolyn Vance, maybe.
That sounds. I know it's a Vance. I think you got.
Only reason I know.
I see why you know.
Yeah.
Best casting director ever. Like
Catherine.
I think she's only got one misstep, and I'm not trying to catch heat, so I ain't saying it. But Captain Marvel was a very bad casting.
Captain Marvel.
I'm not a fan. Not a fan of that casting.
Didn't hate that one.
I wanted. I didn't hate the movie. You won't
catch heat for that. Half of America didn't like her either.
I wanted. Oh God, I'm like, I think this person should have done it, and I can't remember their name. You just made me think of Vance, so now I can't think of her name. Katie Sackhoff is who I wanted to play.
Katie Sackhoff.
So she was in Longmire. She's in a lot of like low budget sci-fi stuff.
Gotcha.
She's in the Comic-Con world. Like, she does a lot of Comic-Cons because she's in that.
Longmire sounds familiar.
She played the Pink Ranger in the short Ari Safir or whatever. They did that dark retelling on YouTube a few years ago that had it had the guy that played Dawson in Dawson's Creek. He played Jason. He was the Red Ranger in it.
I have to look that up.
Dude, it's so good. It's so good. It's like a super dark retelling of Power Rangers, and Katie Sackhoff plays the Pink Ranger in it.
The name is familiar. I just can't place.
When you see her, you go, "Oh, her." Now, granted, I'm also not knocking the casting totally because Katie's older. I'm not gonna say she's much older than Brie Larson, but she's older. It might not fit, but my perception of Captain Marvel was always a little older, more mature, more weathered by life. Like that's how I always visualized her. Mm-hmm. And again, comic books get a lot of hate for the films, and the hate that it gets is because, oh, well, they're rebooted this again, they're rebooting that again. Oh God, we're getting another one of these. This is just an origin story. This is just that. What's happening is comic book movies are finally just becoming what comic books are. It's like people get upset that there's 14 versions of a character. It's like, wait a second. this is for comic book fans. We've had 14 versions of these characters already. Like there's 10 different Batmans in the comic books. There might be 5 Spider-Man books going at the same time where Peter Parker's plotline is completely different in every one.
Yeah, there'd be Spider-Man and Friends. There'd be Spider-Man. There'd be the Amazing Spider-Man. There'd be Avengers. There'd be the Venom comic books, and Spider-Man was in all of these, and they weren't always crossovers.
Yeah, he could be at a completely different point in the timeline of his existence.
Could be a different Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like you had Scarlet Spider, you had Spider-Man, you had Miles Morales.
Oh man, so I don't want to really go too far off, but I've got to comment on this because I've never got to comment on it somewhere. It bothers me that Miles Morales is called Miles Morales Spider-Man. People go, oh yeah, it's the Miles Morales Spider-Man. No, he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's just
like stop calling him Miles Morales Spider-Man in general conversation unless you're trying to specifically differentiate him, because we're not saying Peter Parker Spider-Man. We say Spider-Man and people assume Peter Parker. But
very good point.
But it's like the character has a different suit. He's a different person, but
different powers.
Yeah, but in that world, if you're reading, they don't go, oh, there goes Miles Morales Spider-Man. No, the characters in those comics, he's Spider-Man. He's the new Spider-Man. It's always bothered me that, so a lot gets said about changing genders or changing races of characters and stuff, and it's like, oh, just create new original characters. I think that's a great idea. I love original characters for people that want people that look and act and go through the same walks of life as them. People deserve representation, of course, but we do have people that we have a Miles Morales situation where it exists. Okay. The character is liked. Can we just call him Spider-Man? And if he's sitting on a screen and we're looking at him and we're talking about him, we should just call him Spider-Man. Now, again, I know it's all semantics and it doesn't matter, but getting
hand holding I was talking about.
So getting back to round this into Captain America, the Winter Soldier, my wife said something one day. Oh, she bought me a hoodie. She goes, "Oh, I got you a Falcon and the Winter Soldier hoodie." I said, "Captain America and the Winter Soldier." She goes, "Well, yeah, it's Falcon and the Winter Soldier." I said, "I have a big problem with saying things to my wife that I probably should just go, 'Thank you. You are a great wife. I appreciate this.' But instead, I go, I would like to nitpick this and tell you that I don't appreciate this hoodie as much because now he's Captain America." I'm such a piece of shit.
No, that's great.
I'm like, well, yeah. She's like, I got it on sale. I said, of course you got it on sale. He's the new Captain America. That's not even him. This is like getting the Super Bowl hat for the team that lost. It's not relevant anymore. But I'm really hoping that when the reason I say this ties in, obviously, because this is where you start the Falcon storyline.
Yeah.
Which, again, the amount of screen time and the importance to the plot that they give Anthony Mackie in that film, whenever the title is literally this guy and this guy, but then you give this dude all this screen time, I love it because you still get plenty with the other ones.
And Black Widow.
Yeah,
she's pretty featured.
The way you even get, I mean, like I said, all the political stuff with how did they fit all that? It's such a good proof of concept for Infinity War and Endgame. Mm-hmm. Like, look, we can cram these people in here and we can make it work. We can give you everything you want. Like, we're not just wetting your beak. Man, they explored every character so much. And they also held back just enough. They didn't give you so much Bucky that it was just like all this exposition just to like kill the character and say, oh, you don't need to see him later in other films. We've already told you everything about him. It left you needed to end that film with mystery. Like if you kill all the mystery, which again, they at a certain point they realized they were going to do 23 films or whatever, and they were like, okay, the mystery was always there, but I think again it set the tone for the greater MCU universe. Mm-hmm. It was like, all right, we are going to leave some things in the dark, but somehow we're going to make you feel fulfilled. Like we're going to make you feel like you got everything you wanted. And how about that reveal when Bucky takes that mask off? Like, oh, when the Winter Soldier joins the fray, when he joins the film, I still get goosebumps. I'm just like, oh,
Catches the
so
shield,
good. Oh yeah.
and Cap throws it, and he's
When he catches it, ooh, I feel that right now. I look when I'm telling you, my wife will vouch for me. I have a love affair with that film. Like it's just so great.
I see your points.
You're like, but
Very valid.
I raise you.
You're lucky because I almost went with Captain America, the original, because that to this day is probably one of my top 5 Marvel movies.
Underrated in the grand scheme of the MCU.
It's a beautifully made movie and ended just the way it's supposed to. Like, oh, okay, cool, he's frozen. You know what I mean? It's like when you got a franchise, you know there's more movies, but like we're gonna end this first one kind of on a sad note.
Yeah, I think they were going to call it Frozen, but that was taken.
Was it? Well,
that's fine. I'll just let it go.
That's what I was going to say. You beat me to it. Now, Into the Unknown. Let me tell you about this next one here. My pick for the MCU battle. It's going to be a little film called Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd's Ant-Man?
Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, yes. Not to be confused with Michael Douglas's Ant-Man.
If it was the 90s and these MCU films were being made, the titles would be cheesy crap like that. It would be Paul Rudd's Ant-Man.
That's exactly it. And then at this point, we'd have like, who knows, dude?
So I'm so glad they happened in the era they happened. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes is Blade. Anyway, Ant-Man,
a good one.
Ant-Man is solid because without Ant-Man paved the way for comedy in these movies. Without Ant-Man, you don't get to Guardians of the Galaxy and you don't get to Thor Ragnarok. Like, which on a lot of people's list, those are in the top 5.
Well, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to be watching this and they're going to argue, well, this one was funny and that was RDJ was funny in the first. When you say pave the way for comedy, not comic relief, not funny lines, not lighthearted stuff in the fray. It was, again, when you smash two genres together, if you don't like action, you could watch that film as a comedy. Why am I defending your movie?
Because it was a giant Thomas the Train and it got giantized and thrown at somebody.
Which I'll draw a great parallel here. The Thomas the Train thing happened. You did this, you were taken aback, you thought it was silly, but it still worked. You were like, you didn't really question it. It didn't feel goofy.
And the best part is the whole train fight that happened when they're on the Thomas the Train set is so intense and the music is so loud. Then they pan out and then it falls over. And it's like, Kiki.
See,
like, that's perfect.
I think about the second Guardians whenever Quill turns into Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
That scene, that moment takes me out of that film so bad because it's like it's going, and I said I'm drawing a parallel, but I never really thought about it. They do the exact same thing. It's crazy loud, everything's going wild. He turns into Pac-Man, and the sound just zerts out, and he goes waka 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 waka. I just realized they did the exact same trick, but so much better executed with Thomas the Train. Like so, again, you go, huh? And my brain wanted to think it was stupid, and then my heart was like, no, it's not stupid. He makes things big with the things, and he threw the thing at him, and it's big. That's what it looked like small, so that's what it looks like big. And that all happens in a split second. I'm like,
checks out.
Yep, big train. There it is. Also, don't they reference it like later on there in front with the cops, and they like say something about the train? I think his ex-wife's cop husband says something about the train. Like, what was that? Like, again, the MCU is just so good at self-referencing and stuff and setting things up.
Self-referencing, setting it up, and the casting. Like, Paul Rudd was great, but also that supporting cast was in Mrs. Doubtfire while Paul Rudd was playing a superhero.
Yeah.
So you had the family dynamic, but you also had that superhero aspect where he wasn't a good guy. I mean, he was a good guy. He wasn't a great guy.
Why was T.I. good? Why was T.I.? How was T.I.? What? He shouldn't
T.I.
work,
is pretty
and he was
good.
so good in that film.
T.I.'s notoriously good in most of the movies, and eloquent as hell too. Any interview he says, this is, and he's the blue collar. He's a blue collar rapper too.
He's one of
He
those.
shows up in Walmart and buys shit.
He's definitely one of those underrated actors because he was this first. Because you were something else first, you get your acting chops get overlooked. He was so good, and I mean, I don't
He's
even
doing comedy now.
Yeah, I heard Godfrey's really mad at him because he got on stage and did some time after his set. What is it? Anthony Pena? Is that?
Yeah. Thug 1, Thug 2, Mexican guy 1, Mexican guy 2.
And how
Cholo.
how about the fact that he's got his own fandom around that style of storytelling he does. We could do a whole episode on this. Biggest not misstep, because I really don't think that the MCU has ever really had a misstep per se. They've made it all work. Biggest missed opportunity was not listening to the internet and doing an entire arc recap told through Anthony Pena's character. Speed talking recap of Iron Man 1 all the way through Infinity War before Endgame. Leading up to Endgame's release, there should have been a 15-minute crazy style rant.
It could have worked.
Oh, God. With the writers they've got, they could have killed it.
That was a missed opportunity for him. He should just do it.
Yeah,
Post it on his YouTube or whatever.
I still to this day, even though it's way past when it should have happened, I even now feel like they could recap it all and release that on like the the 20. They don't. What pisses me off? They don't have an entire MCU first arc box set all the way up to Spider-Man Home. Which one was the Spider-Man Far From Home? That's the which oddly enough is the end of
when Iron Man's dead.
Yeah, very. Which I'll draw another parallel here. After Endgame, I remember several friends that I talked to about movies, we were all just like, not upset. You're not upset about it, but I thought it was dumb that wasn't the end. They're like, no, the phase 3, that was phase 3, right? I think it went to the end of phase 3 is Spider-Man Far From Home. I was like, whoa, what? Why? Then you watch it and you go, okay, that worked.
Yeah.
This made sense. It felt like the capping of the story. It felt like just a retelling of it. I'm trying to say prologue or epilogue, but I'm getting confused as to which one's which. Yeah. I watched the Batman.
Can we talk the Batman for a minute?
We can.
But just to cap that, the way Spider-Man ends, and it has that scene where he's using the machine just like Tony used to do.
Yeah.
Happy's watching, like you look just like him. Very cute. Very sweet moment.
So the parallel I was trying to draw is that I didn't think that was going to work, because that film, I thought it was going to be a good film, but I didn't think it was going to work as an end to I thought I was going to, in my head, say Endgame is the end of the arc. That's the end of the Infinity arc. Piss on what they say. And then I was wrong. Ant-Man was the first MCU film, whether you liked anything before it or after you saw it, it was the first one that, as it was getting promoted, I didn't have faith in it. I didn't think it was going to be good. I was like, nope, casting's trash. It's mediocre. I don't see the point in the character. He doesn't need his own film. They need to ease him in. And then it comes out, the credits are rolling, it's over, and I'm sitting there in the theater going, son of a bitch, they did it.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, like they did that. Which
holds up still too.
Oh yeah. I watched it 2 nights ago. One of my cats loves Iron Man and Ant-Man. She gets very excited whenever either. I'm dead serious. If I put Ant-Man or Iron Man on, my cat will notice. She's got cerebral hypoplasia, so she gets intention tremor. She shakes, gets so excited. When I tell you that she'll see Pepper in the response armor at the very end of Endgame, and she'll go like this, and then the hood comes up and it's Pepper. My cat goes like she'll get excited to see Robert Downey Jr. She'll get excited to see Iron Man, Paul Rudd, or Ant-Man. But if Ant-Man comes out of that costume and it's old Ant-Man, she checks out. She's like, this is bullshit. Yeah. It disturbs me how much she can tell the difference.
Well, I think it's a beautifully done film. I'm going to side with Ant-Man. And I know you're going to side with Captain America.
Yeah, it's hard.
We'll put that as a draw, which means you win. Because you snuck by me with that Friday. So 2 draws and a win. So give it up for your winner.
I feel like we picked such similar films. Like I liked how
right on par.
I felt like our first two in the action genre was like we both went for sci-fi action, which awesome. I love that genre in general. Even the bad sci-fi action films from that era were great. And then the second one, like I said, I felt like it was like we had funny. I want to watch both those films back to back and see if I feel that way or if I just feel totally different once I see them and just go, oh no, it was dick and fart jokes.
Probably. It's a lot of dick and fart jokes.
And then look, there's probably 10 MCU films that I feel you could argue against one another as the best MCU film. Like everybody on the planet that likes Marvel, their favorite MCU film is valid.
Yeah.
Like and by favorite, I mean, they say, oh, this is the best. If they say it's the best, I'm like, look, your opinion's valid. Even some of the bad ones, I don't know that there's a person on this planet that's going to be like, oh, Thor 2: The Dark World. I'd be like, please explain.
I wasn't into it.
I'd be, please explain to me.
Not into it. I tried multiple times.
That's my least favorite. That is my least favorite Marvel film in the MCU.
Currently, like including all the Eternals and all that stuff too.
The what?
Eternals?
What's that?
It's nope. Yeah. It exists, but that is a sex scene in it. Do you know that?
It does. Such a weird, okay, so the sex scene in the Eternals, if you haven't seen it, it's not weird to me that they put a sex scene in it. Because there's been some relationshipical stuff going on in these films. There's been some allusion to it. Yeah.
Alluding to it.
Did we need the thrust? Did we need the thrust?
It wasn't just one.
No, they were like
she's laying on the floor going. She goes, "I love you."
Yeah.
Oh,
look, I'm not a weird prude that's like, oh, you can't let people know sex exists in these films. I get it. I understand. But lay down, fade to black. That's all we needed. Just lay down on the grass and fade to black. We don't need to pump and dump. We don't need to see that.
Oh my gosh, dude. Was it necessary for the film?
You're sitting there watching it with your kid and your kid's like, Daddy, what's going on? It's a shaky cam.
Oh my gosh, dude. That was unnecessary. It could have been edited out, faded to black.
It's so
they weren't
weird.
even in the room or anything.
No, they were I think they were outside somewhere. It was so weird.
That's so awkward, man. Anyway,
yeah,
I wanted to like the Eternals so much because a lot of what went into that was full on Jack Kirby. They did him right. All the characters looked like they should have looked. Of course, there were some different races, religions, sexes. I
loved the diversity of that film and the explanation for it. And then it just ended up being a bad film. It was a lot of people said, oh, well, it's refreshing because they're doing this and trying this. I'm like, that's great. All that's great. But if you put out a stinker, all that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that how they did it was really good. I'll say that. Moon Knight's the same way. In the comics, I'll get to Moon Knight in a second. But the way the Eternals handles the relationships and everything, it's not like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm this way. It's not being announced. They're included.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're going out of their way to make a big deal about the fact that I'm doing this because this is what I want to do. Instead, they're just like, I love him. And they just leave it at that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's not You don't have to beat me in the face with it because that takes me out of the movie. Just do it like we would really do it. Like, introduce me to your boyfriend.
Right.
Even though you're a man. And that's fine. You have a whole-on relationship. Totally okay with it. But don't treat me like I'm dumb. I mean, if you're making out with them, y'all in a relationship. Or you're looking to pump and dump. Either way, if we're watching the Eternals, who knows? But when they beat you over the head with it, that's when it becomes like a part of the movie. I love Avengers Endgame, but they did the same scene they did in Infinity War with the girl power thing.
Mm-hmm.
Excessive. You did it already. You just did it. The other movie did it. And even the same setup.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, I got to go over here. Don't worry. She's not alone. I was like, okay, cool. And then you make me wait for the new movie and it comes out. And then somebody's got the MacGuffin and they got to get it over to the other side. I was like, I need help. Like, don't worry. You're not alone. Like, hey, didn't you just do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we doing this twice? There's no need to do it twice.
Well, also there's the thing where like what I always say, any film, like anything superhero films, suspension of disbelief comes into play. How good the film is, how enjoyable it is, how immersive it is, determines how much I will suspend my disbelief. I thought it was weird, the girl power scene in Endgame, but it was such a good film as far as it's sticking. It stuck the dismount from 10 years of filmmaking that when it happened, it was like, okay. But you're starting a whole. You're saying this arc is over. This is over. We closed this story. Iron Man's gone. This is done. The stones, that it's all done. Now we're going to give these people their first film. We're going to give the Eternals their first film, but we're going to open it up in such a big, like they opened it up in a world the size of the Endgame world. Like you had too much going on. So I'm already having to accept the fact that all of this rich history just exists already, and I'm just supposed to just accept it. Like, okay, these hyper god things, whatever. And then you do the same girl power scene. Mm-hmm. It's like, look, I was already choking down some disbelief. Don't do that again. Like you said, we just did that. It just happened.
My biggest complaint with the in-game scene over the Infinity War scene is Mantis.
I always said it'd be funny if they landed. We're gonna do this, and I go, "What are you gonna do?"
She goes. She even does that move. Like if you watch it back, if you watch Endgame, and they go to the girl power scene where like she's not alone. Everybody's all like looking super powered. You have everybody doing cool stuff. Mantis is like, this is literally what she does.
I am here too.
I'm girl.
Okay,
I am girl.
So again, suspension of disbelief. But if I'm gonna nitpick it, my biggest problem with that scene is Scarlet Witch was in that scene, correct? Yeah, she lands there. She's
the second one or the first one?
So
she did the first one.
Huh?
No. Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, no. So they all land there in Endgame, right? And not Black Widow, Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch lands right there. She does a little whoop, and she's like, "Well, we've got this," or she says something.
She's not alone.
Yeah, isn't this the Scarlet Witch that just was about to kill Thanos? Literally had him in the air, and he had to rain down fire to stop it.
Just do it.
Did she just lose her powers? She's 40 feet away. Screw the gauntlet. Go fly back over there and kill him again. Just do the thing again. It's like you're literally the most powerful thing on the battlefield, and you're like, yeah, we're going to help her get this glove over there. No, let her fly with her hyper powers that just came through the atmosphere and burst through a giant ship. You go kill the crazy alien. You go kill the sociopathical alien. You go do that. She's like, well, I'm 40 feet away from him now because the thing hit me. So
that's a you thing. You go do that.
Yeah. So it was very weird. Like the spectrum of characters that landed there. Like, yeah, we're about to do this. Like, Yeah, Mantis is just that's just the weirdest thing. It'd been funny if right when they all took off running, Mantis ran the other way.
That would have been better. I would have believed that. Or if like when she goes to run with them, like she gets hit with shrapnel and just falls over.
And you know, the defense of that scene is always somebody with a girl child or something. My daughter loved it. You know, her eyes lit up and all something like. And I am glad. I am very happy that girls, children, or adult females get some good vibes out of that. I'm not telling you can't enjoy things. I'm telling you, I thought it was goofy.
And if it realistically, like my daughter watched it too, she's a Captain Marvel fan. So I've watched Captain Marvel 1,000,000 times. And as much as wasn't my favorite movie, I loved it. And the reason I love it, though, is because she loved it. And this goes back to what you're saying, like with the girl power thing. If we're in Endgame and everybody's getting their butt kicked, and all of a sudden the cannons change angles and they're taking on Captain Marvel, your girl is straight taking everybody out. You could have left it at that.
Yeah.
Be like, Captain Marvel just saved Captain America and Iron Man and Thor. Everybody got saved by her.
I'm trying to think of anything that was that egregious that felt unnatural around male characters in the film, because usually if I can draw a parallel and go, okay, well, they've done something silly like this before. It really was one of the first just egregiously out of place fan servicey things ever. And I'm just like, this whole movie is already. So here's the thing. All of Endgame was filled with fan service, but it was fan service that was built up through all the other films. There was never any talk of this team of women and stuff. Like, there was never any allusion to it. The women characters actually are very independent throughout the whole of the MCU. So it's weird to suddenly be like, hey, other women who we haven't really had any time or ability to bond. Yeah, like, what's up? Like, no.
Well, it's weird. The first one, yeah. So realistically, you cut the first girl power scene out and you wait 5 years later, because there is some relationships there, especially between Wakanda and Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
All of that bonding has happened over 5 years. So some of the people that didn't get bamfed out or do have relationships, but the first meetup, no, they're meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this person's going to back me up.
So here's one of my favorite.
That girl almost killed Scandinavia not too long ago.
I don't know if it's if I would call it's not an Easter egg. It's a callback, though. One of my favorite callbacks in all of Endgame is when Clint has the gauntlet, right? And he's running, he's looking for something to do with it. And Black Panther lands and he turns and he says, Clint, give it to me. A lot of people don't realize what happened right there. I didn't realize what happened until I watched Civil War again.
I know what you're talking about.
They never meet. They don't know each other. The only interaction that Hawkeye has with him is he says, hi, I'm Clint. And he goes, I don't care. And then they don't interact in any way until the next time.
They remembered him.
Which I think is a really clever nod to something they don't talk about in the MCU, but they allude to it a lot. How goddamn intelligent Black Panther is. Like, how, because, you know, he's part of the Illuminati in the comics. Like, he is hyper intelligent. He's in that upper echelon of intelligent characters, and they don't talk about his intelligence. They don't talk about how just their culture in Wakanda, like, I mean, having the scientific advances, like, most people are going to be more intelligent. Who's going to be even more intelligent? Somebody with royal blood, somebody that's been raised and schooled and educated. I just thought it was such a quick wink that myself included missed the first time I watched it. I didn't miss him say Clint. I was just like, okay, we're all battling together. We know everybody's name. But then I saw it and I was like, this motherfucker remembered his name after he said he did. You did care.
You did care.
Which I wish there was a cheesy outtake where Clint goes, oh, you did care.
See, you do remember me.
Which I don't know if you ever dug into it, but I'm hyper obsessive about the MCU because I value it more than a lot of film buffs do. It's good for comic films. I just think they did. It's an amazing accomplishment, the entire, first 23 film arc. But if you ever check out a YouTube channel called The Canadian Lad, he watches a lot of different movies, but he's popular for watching MCU films in 2.5x speed. So he watches it really slow and catches all the little bitty things, and he talks about callbacks and references to different points and certain things that blow my mind that he catches. I'm like, wait a second. What? He picks up things like which I don't think he's actually ever mentioned him noticing Clint's name and stuff, but there's little bitty things like he pointed out there's a scene in Iron Man where he's flying out of his his tunnel, basically where his cars would go out, but he's flying the Iron Man suit out, and you see his heads up display. In the heads up display, it blinks red, and then it says a little message, and 2 seconds later he runs into the wall. The heads up display actually says, hey, you're going to hit the wall. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then there's another scene where the mask is about to slap on his face. He's able to call the mask to him.
Yeah.
And it says something about, so it wasn't, Jarvis was gone at that point. It was Friday, right? Mm-hmm. Friday says something like, it's not, it's the targeting is off or something like that. And it says, do you want to do it anyway? Says yes. His face is fine. The mask hits and they show the heads up display. He's got a busted lip because the targeting was off for the goddamn mask.
Yeah. I think of everything, dude. You know what got me was the Thor scene when he's talking about Dark World, and he's like Thor, can you come tell us about this? And he gets up and he goes with the eye drops.
Yeah.
He puts it in one eye.
Yeah.
Because he only has one eye.
I love it.
And I'm like, good one.
So I don't remember where I heard this, but have you ever heard the theory that Rocket is collecting parts for a body throughout the whole? So he wants the eye. There's he asked Thor for his eye, right? He's like, I'm going to get that eye.
Yeah. He
gets a leg for one he gets like a robotic leg in one of the Guardians movies. He asked Bucky, can I get that arm? And his character is, he's been experimenting on and all this stuff. And and the whole thing is he's still in the body of this creature that has a shorter lifespan and all this. So the assumption is that he's trying to collect all these body parts to make a new body for himself. And I never thought about it. And I was just like, wait, arm, leg, eyeball.
That is interesting. He hates himself.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, what a deep character for a raccoon. Bradley Cooper, Oscar winner or nominated or whatever. He plays a raccoon.
Speaking of crazy casting, like another one that I'm like, what a stupid casting. And then it happens and like, what a great casting.
Yeah. And
I forget Vin Diesel is even in these films. Like, I'm like, wait.
You know what though? Do you know he does the I am Groot thing in every language?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is insane. And different inflections.
Oh yeah. He didn't go in there and go, I am Groot, collect a check. He did days and days of that. And doesn't just I am Groot with different inflections, just like any other voiceover actor would. He's watching the scenes, like he's doing it like he would be saying any other lines. It's not just like, yeah, give me. So they did a Blink-182 album a long time ago, and Travis Barker wrote a bunch of drum beats and just recorded them, sent them to the other guys, and basically said, here's 800 drum beats, X amount of time, and they just chopped them up and made a record. Like they put their parts, chopped up, used whatever they had. Not the case with this, hey, I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot, I'm Groot. No, I'm watching the film and I'm waiting for my lines and I'm hitting them with. So that again, such a deep character that on the surface, if you're not into comic book films, you're not into the MCU. Big deal. A guy said one line 50 times. It's like, yeah, but you just don't get it.
And the points go to the cast too, because they sell it.
Oh
so
yeah,
when he goes, I am Groot when he's a teenager, like language.
I love it.
Anyway, I don't even know what we're talking about at this point.
I could go on and on about the MCU. Like I'm a defender till the end.
Quickly touch on it because Falcon and the Winter Soldier. How did you feel about that show?
I loved it. Again, I really like the tactical action type aspect of it. I like that they went into deep waters with the conflict about taking human life.
Bucky.
Yeah.
That-
Here's the thing: the parallel between Bucky and U.S. Agent, like U.S. Agent going off the deep end and taking a life with the shield, with the Cap shield, which is, I mean, that was crazy
Disney
enough.
Plus, we got some blood on the shield, huh?
I love what they did with the I guess villain she would kind of be. You know, MCU's just, I'm not gonna say they're great at it, but they're known for doing conflicted villains where it's just like you do that. Yeah, man, that's a horrible. You kind of got a point there.
I hate him. Like Baron Zemo.
Yeah.
Talk about eating scenery.
But they did a good job. I can't remember her name. The one that played the super soldier girl that was the head of the like red hand or whatever.
It's the same girl from Star Wars. I
Yeah.
can't think of her name.
Well, she was excellent in it because right as they're reeling you in and you're almost like, okay, I feel you. I'm kind of with you. The main protagonists kind of point out to her like, hey, but you're going too far. Like we even agree with you, but you're going too far. Yeah. And that's the difference. I saw somebody point out they were using a Killmonger as an example. They were like, yeah, I hate that these films have these villains that make such great points. So what they do is have them do something crazy to dispel the possibility that they could be right. Killmonger, the situation is, okay, he wants to give technology to disenfranchised people that are of his race and come from his part of the world. And he wants to bring them, lift them up and give them the equality that they need to really have a fair life in this world. And then they have him shoot his girlfriend. He shoots old girl because claw grabs or whatever. I'm like, that's not an argument though. That's why he's the bad guy, because even though he is right about a lot of things, he's willing to do horrible things to get it. That's the difference. Yeah. Cap was the good guy. He was not willing to do the horrible things. Code. Yeah. Does that make any of the positive things that said? I mean, look, Thanos was right about we need to do something about the population and
Thanos was right about everything.
Yeah.
Even after Eternals.
Does that mean he was good?
No.
It means he was willing to sacrifice being the good guy to accomplish the thing he needed to accomplish. Same thing about Killmonger. It's like he was willing to not be the good guy. Now, granted, I do think they pushed him a little crazier, but also his character had cuts all over his body for every life he's taken. Probably probably messed him up a little bit. I've only murdered 900 people.
I'm sure he doesn't have a count anymore. I mean, I lost DJing weddings. I lost count. Like I was keeping count, and I'm like, I don't know. It's well over 300.
Yeah, like what? That's another funny thing about the character of Killmonger. Like all the cuts all over his body. I'm just like, they're very symmetrical and stuff. Like, was he spacing them out as he went? Like like the lugs on a tire. Like, let me do one here and then here and then here.
I think he does like 5 at a time.
Yeah. Or did he start like over here and then like at one point he had like 3/4 of his body with cuts on it?
Ain't no telling.
Or is there like a weird pattern like on his like back right side of his back where it's like, oh yeah, this is before I realized it was going to be a thing.
Yeah. He has he has his fraternity brand on the back.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the way. But if you just space them symmetrically everywhere else, we're fine. But yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought was really good. How they dive into Bucky.
Yeah.
Some of the best shit I've ever seen in my life.
I love that they don't give you the 100% hand-holding closure with it. He goes and talks to the guy at the end, but they don't baby you. They don't go, here's the little conversation between them and Bucky's going to feel bad and the old man's going to cry. No, it's like some shit's going down. It's going down. We've built up to it. Is what it is. That's all there is to it.
And that one scene just resonates so much where he's like, you've got to be Captain America because he chose you to be Captain America. And if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the best scene.
Okay, so I think here. I don't know if this is a theory. It's just a point of view. I feel like in the MCU, so every movie you ever watch, there's always a character, whether it be a very background character, the main character, whatever it may be. I feel like Hollywood always writes a character that is you. It's the viewer. Like this character is you if you were in the movie. Anthony Mackie is a normal everyday Joe if they existed in the MCU. Yeah. And I think they stuck by that so hard with so I can't remember his name, but the jailed black Captain America that was a big point of contention in the I can't remember what his name was in the film, in the movie, in the TV show.
Shit.
But he gets to the point where he's telling Sam, he's like, yeah, don't do this. They disrespected the whole thing. They don't value you like that. America's not looking at. And Sam, he is the viewer.
Isaiah,
there it is. The viewer wants to be a superhero in the MCU. But instead of just going, nah, I like to fly and do cool shit, they give him a really good angle where he's just like, he's essentially, I don't know how they made it so respectful and realistic at the same time. He didn't really say, I'm not going to do that because that's the easy way out. But that's the core meaning of what he said to Isaiah. He was like, look, I get it. They screwed you and it sucks and it's wrong. And it's in the past, and there's truly nothing you can do about it. It's already happened. There's time machines in MCU, but there's technically nothing you can do about it. Like the disrespect for your place on the timeline in this war in this universe, it's set in stone. Even though there's a cool closure, and he gets, they talk about him in the museum and all that. That doesn't make it okay. That's giving Isaiah the lowest common denominator, the least amount of course correction they can, because you can't give him the time in jail back. You can't give him the respect back. But Sam's like, even though there's a chance that I could end up just like you, I could end up completely written out of the history books, disrespected, thrown away. I have to try. I've got to try and do this. And that's the moment where Sam is no longer the next Captain America. He's Captain America.
Yeah.
It's like, that's when that's whenever I feel like that moment flipped, where it was like, it's no longer, can you be what Steve was? At that moment, it's like, I'm not even going to try. Because I need to be what Isaiah would have been if they gave him a fair shake. That's what I need to be. And the only way he can do that is to do the exact opposite of what Isaiah is saying to do. Isaiah's like, no, just dip it. And I also like there's not, again, similar to the like not giving you the conversation with Bucky and so bad with the names of any of these characters. I don't even know if they said his name, but with the old guy that he killed his son. They don't give you that conversation, but what happens. Same thing with Sam and Isaiah. I don't think they ever see eye to eye about it. Mm-hmm. I think they just have an understanding that, like, we've got to make our way in this life.
I did want him to suit up at least once, and he didn't suit up. I want to see Isaiah suit up. Yeah.
Oh, it'd have been sick.
School freaking. Did you read that run of comic? It was red, white, and black.
I don't think I have.
It's called. I think that's what it was called. Really crazy shit, because it was grounded in reality. Really, if you think about it, it's a mixture of the Captain America story, and of course the Tuskegee experiments. Yeah. So imagine, if you will, like it's Captain America thing, but before they start testing it on soldiers, the first ones in line are people that slaves or whatever, that they were doing the tests and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And one got away, Isaiah, and it's a real interesting concept. Like, they don't dive too much, I don't think, into the whole Bucky relationship or anything, but really cool show. It's in my top 3 of the Disney Plus, but Moon Knight, whole nother level, dude.
Have not
I've
seen
only
it
seen
yet.
one episode. I won't say anything about it, but I'll say this. Yeah, game changer. But I think this is what I was going to say. Eternals was too much. It was too much at once. It would have been better to sprinkle it, like the Guardians 3 that's coming out. Have that kind of play into the Eternals a little bit. The next Thor, have that play a little bit into the Eternals. You could literally use the Eternals as the next Thanos and just spread it out to where it's like, oh, we're going to destroy the whole planet.
So I don't remember the exact terminology I used, but I'll try and get close to it. The biggest issue with just the existence of the Eternals as a film to me is there's scope of story and then there's size of universe. I feel like you can have a small story in a huge universe, or you can have a huge story in a small universe. What I mean by that is, so Captain Marvel takes place as an intergalactic kind of story. So does Guardians, right? Like, oh, it takes place all across all space and time, but they focus on a core group of people. It's very small. There's not all the bigger powers are like just kind of looming over things, and then they have, like Ronan, he ends up being a dude. Like it takes it down to something small. So it's like, okay, big universe, small story. Like the story is still very self-contained. You're not having to turn your head to see all the sides of the story. You're just having to understand that it takes place in a ginormous universe. And then you've got something like the Avengers, the first Avengers. Huge story where all this stuff's going on, where you're bringing in all these other characters with all kinds of developing backstories and stuff, but it takes place in New York. There's a wormhole and you barely see where all that's coming from for a second, but for the most part, we're doing small world, huge story.
Yeah.
The mistake they made right out the gate with the Eternals was, okay, we've got people, Eternals, but you've got heroes all over the world. They're all different kinds of people with all different kinds of developing plots. And we've got some like mental world that old girl goes to see the Celestial.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the plot of the Celestial, and then you go even further and you get into the
you're all clones.
Yeah. but then, so when they start doing the scene where they like space out and they start showing them and like, oh, this is how you create universes and stuff. They should have said that stuff about creating universes and creating existence. They started to allude to like the Celestials being God in that in the Marvel universe. I think they should have said that stuff, glazed over it real quick, and let it just be just let it be real theoretical. But they tried to put all that on screen. And as they're
one movie,
and as they're trying to show you that, all it's doing is making me care less about the characters, because I built these really personal relationships with the characters because they're trying to, okay, this is what's going on in their life. This is what's going on in their life. 2 scenes later, this is how we create universes and blah blah. It's like, whoa.
This person you like now is irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. So
we're gonna reset them in a minute. So
I feel like they should have hit a reset and realized we started from Iron Man and we ramped up to having this. So Endgame was big universe, big characters, big plot, but they did all the work to get to it.
Yeah.
You can't act like all those films built up to the Eternals, because it didn't. You as the MCU said, this is the end of this arc. The Infinity Saga is 23 films. It's from Iron Man all the way to that Spider-Man film. It's like, so you're saying let's restart. They did a great job of restarting with the next Spider-Man film. They did not do a great job with the Eternals. The Eternals also, it had a lot to live up to. It was expected to be the next Guardians. It was lots of characters that we don't really know in a really uncertain world. But again, they lost the plot at some point by just trying to do too much, too big.
Well, Morbius lost the plot immediately. But if you haven't seen that yet,
Morbius. And look, I'm gonna have to have an immense amount of free time with no opportunity to do anything else for me to go sit in the theater and watch Morbius.
tell you what, wasn't worth it.
It's a
Don't
bad
even give
one,
me a
huh?
free ticket, dude. I won't
It's a
go.
bad one.
And the thing is, it's not a freaking 3-hour movie like Batman. It's maybe an hour and change, maybe 120 minutes, maybe. It might be like 90 minutes. It's not a long movie, and it just feels like a long movie. It's like you got me fooled. Like Batman, spoilers, spoiler warning for those that are